Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast for episode 2 this week. Max can't join us this week; he's busy tonight, so we've shuffled in the infamous Andrew Stats Dalton in to take his place, and we'll talk to Stats a bit more in a minute. Usual stuff. If you want to keep supporting the channel and the podcast, you can like, share, all that kind of normal stuff if you want to. And we'll go around the houses. Paul, how's your week been, mate? Welcome back.
Week's been good, busy with work, everything, all of that kind of stuff. Thanks for having me on again. Apart from me trapping a nerve in my neck earlier on today, which we've had a little discussion about off air, but I'm getting better. I'm old, but I'm getting better.
We've talked about getting old a lot already today. So speaking of getting old, Kev, how's things? You right? You well?
Less old than you lot, but yeah, we'll see.
That's true.
How that goes. It's been a good week, busy with work. Looking forward to the transfer window opening and see what goes on from there. But yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll find out if some rumours are true or not. Probably not, more likely. And Stats, how have you been, mate?
Yeah, busy. It's been, I think, a very sad week, which I know will come to for the city of Leeds very shortly. But yeah, busy with work, and got a busy week next week. Plan, which again I'll come to very, very shortly.
Just remind everybody, everyone's channel's links are down below in the description if you're watching it on YouTube, and Stats' Twitter handle is down there below as well if you want to go and follow him. Paul is edging closer and closer towards 1,000 subscribers on Leeds Therapy, so head over, give him a little subscribe and boost Kraken channel. Great stuff by Paul. And also Kev and Leeds House and Not Another Leeds Podcast is probably still my favourite podcast on a Friday to consume. So a lot of fun. So go check them out as well if you want to. Before we get to the sad news, just to update, we are recording on a Thursday, which I left until the middle of the video last week to talk about. So we're recording on Thursday, goes out on a Friday. But Charlie Crew has made his debut for Wales this evening, the first team, 17 years of age and 357 days. Becomes the youngest player to play for Wales since Ethan Ampadu did the exact same thing at the exact same age of 17 years and 357 days. So we've got hopefully an exciting player to look forward to coming into the team next season. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. We're going to go through some of the players we've been linked with this week, and then we're going to get onto a bit of random content that's floating around this week that if we get a chance. And Joe Rodon as well, we'll talk about him as well. But first things first, we want to talk a little bit about Rob Burrow, who passed away this week. Leeds Rhino legend, incredible player, probably one of the players I watched the Rhinos an awful lot during that period of time when Rob Burrow was in that team with Sinfield, and a cracking team. Stats, you've spoken at length this week about Rob Burrow, and I wanted to give you the floor to have a few words about it.
Yeah, just very, very sad when the news broke. 6 o'clock Sunday night. I think it was just like a sudden stop what you're doing kind of thing. And as all the tributes have been poured in, I think there's one thing that I picked up on from another Rhinos legend, Jamie Jones Buchanan, about Rob, that he literally lived two lives. He had his rugby career at the Rhinos, made his debut in 2001 and retired at the end of the 2017 season with a grand final ring against Cast Tigers, and then he had this awful disease, motor neurons disease, which he battled superbly well, and he was a fighter. And his wife Lindsay and his kids should have done absolutely amazing with everything. And it's a sad loss, not just to the city of Leeds, not just to the community, to the rugby league world. And you see all the tributes coming in from far and wide, and not just in Britain, but all over the world as well. You see Australia paying tributes to him, and that shows what kind of man he was as a fighter on the pitch, as a fighter off the pitch. To win 8 grand finals is absolutely unbelievable, and the work that he did with MND, the work that his best mate Kevin Sinfield did with MND is fantastic, and he's left a wonderful legacy. Yeah, it's kind of still sinking in, and I think the way that the Rhinos have actually handled everything is absolutely magnificent, and they should be applauded for the way they've brought the whole rugby league community together. The tributes at Headingley have been nothing short of astonishing, and you see all shirts from all different clubs as well. And yeah, it's been a tough week for the city of Leeds. The Challenge Cup final kicks off on Saturday at 3:07 in tribute to Rob, and then they've got the M&D Day coming up for the next home game against Lee in mid-June. But what a legacy, what a player, what a legend. And I know other people have said it was the kind of golden generation with him, Danny Maguire, Jamie Jones Buchanan, Kevin Sinfield, Carl Ablett, Ryan Bailey, Richie Mathers, that team that won literally everything. And it's such a sad loss, but the work that Lindsay has done, his wife and the kids have done, and Kevin has done is nothing short of exemplary. And sad loss. And I'm sure the rugby league community will join together for that M&D day, and I don't think there'll be a dry eye in the house when Leeds do play Lee in a couple of weeks' time.
I think it's. I'm not obviously. I don't live in Leeds. My Leeds obviously love comes from a family connection, but obviously I don't know too much about the situation up in Leeds. But with it and what he meant to obviously to the city of Leeds. But I can see from social media and everything what he meant to people. So it's really, really sad, and it sounds like a great person within the rugby community has been lost, and from what he did for charity as well. It's just a shame, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's. Rob was the absolute definition of there's no such thing as too small, and he is the epitome of a fighter. He's the epitome of hard work and dedication and loyalty, and again for his family, just an absolute exemplary example of how you should be. And, they're the type of people that we should all be looking up to these days. And just rest in peace. I'm glad that he is no longer in that pain side of things or within that, because it won't have been easy at all. That he's at peace. That's the main thing.
It's something I'm aware of, motor neuron disease. My my ex-wife's father passed away from it as well. And I was around at the time when he was diagnosed with it. And it's a strange and unusual disease in as far as it's an autoimmune disease, but it essentially, the pathways from the brain to the limbs and the functions of your body just gradually just stop working one by one. They just start shutting off. And I think the consultant that I remember hearing at the time said, it's like there's motorways from your brain that go to every part of your body, and for reasons unknown, they just start shutting down one by one, and nobody knows why it happens. It can be a very quick disease, but the one part of your body that doesn't tend to stop working is your brain. So you can be trapped inside of your own head with your own thoughts and not be able to communicate them to people. And it's quite a tough disease. Rob did an incredible job putting up the fight that he did against it to raise the awareness about it that he did. Everybody remembers the Ice Bucket Challenge a couple of years ago, and that was around MND. That was for motor neuron disease. Or if you're in the States, it's called ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. There's lots of different variations and names, but a debilitating disease, an autoimmune disease, it's a horrible thing to happen. But I think everything that they did to highlight the disease itself and to make everyone aware of the charity work they've done is absolutely fantastic. And Paul, to your point, Rob Burrow is exactly what epitomizes being a Leeds fan, whether it's Rhinos or United, is all about. You're not too small. It's about fight. It's about battle. It's about heart. It's about putting all those things in there. And I think, like Kev, my support of Leeds comes from my dad. Don't live in Leeds, but we both supported the Rhinos as well, and we would have that kind of glory time, I think, for rugby league around Europe at that point in the early 2000s everyone was watching rugby league at that point. It was on Sky all the time. It was a good time. Everyone was watching it. There was money going into it. There's some fantastic teams and games, and Leeds were phenomenal around that time, and Rob was a huge part of that as well. So may Rob rest in peace, and my thoughts and prayers and everything go out to his family.
Got a new book coming out next Monday, or this coming Monday, called Leeds United, The Forgotten Games, all about the Leeds United friendlies. As you can see there, done wonderfully by Pitch Publishing. It was an idea that came about from a certain other club that won't be named, that they did a book back in 2016 about the friendly games, and it's something I've always wanted to look at. And I got in contact with Pitch Publishing a couple of summers ago saying, look, I've got this idea. I'd like to sell it to you. It'll be a book about the friendlies, the games that people forget about, etc., etc. There's some stories in there, some trials in there that you probably never heard of. And I just sort of went to the library quite a few times in the last couple of years. Did a bit of research with my co-author Mark Ledgard, who's one of the Oxford Whites, the Thames Valley's Whites, and we broke it down decade by decade, season by season. We kept a spreadsheet of all the games, all the friendlies a couple of years ago, and it kind of went from there. And we just thought, hang on a second here, we'd like to do a book about it, because everything else has been done. The history book's been done of the sort of the competitive games, and this is something a little bit different. So yeah, it hits the shops on Monday. There's a £5 discount at the moment, so if you want to buy it for possibly Father's Day next weekend, it's a wonderful present. And yeah, it's nice to see your name on a book. I do it because I love Leeds United, and as I said on my tweet, it's great to see your work published. So yeah, really looking forward to it coming out, looking forward to the reviews. And there are one or two gaps that we just couldn't find through newspaper articles and getting in contact with clubs left, right, and centre. So I hope people buy it and keep an eye out for it. And I'm going to have a rest from writing, I think, before I look at an idea for book 5 in 2026, all being well. But really proud of it. I'm thrilled that Pitch Publishing have joined forces. Mark's done a wonderful job as well, and look forward to seeing it in the shops next week, all being well.
Brilliant. Well, we'll put this link down below as well. You can check that out. It is available from the 10th, but there's a pre-order, I believe, on it as well on Amazon, so you can go and check that out. It's a great read. Stats, I was thinking about your next book should be Every Leeds Player Ever. That'll keep you busy for about,
Someone did do one in 2008, and it's never been done since. And I think the difficulty with these kind of books is I've done this one. Come the summer, it's out of date. But I suppose that's the same with any friendly book or any history book that you do a season up to, like I did the history book up to the end of the 2019-2020 season under Marcelo Bielsa. Start next season, it's out of date, but that's just the way history books work. So I'd love to do something like that. It's probably something to look at and go from there. So I've got all the stats, and I just hope people buy it. And it's good fun, and it helps you mentally when you've got a focus as well to say, look, I can come home, and if I've got some dark days or some dark thoughts, I can go bang, bang, bang. Here's my book. There you go. Kind of read it. So it's good fun. It's great to have, and I just hope people enjoy it.
I'd like to see someone write a book about, like how close these failed transfers have come and reasons why. Because that thing with Cody Gakpo coming out this week saying if he would have scored 2 goals, he would have come to Leeds. If he scored 1, he'd go to Southampton.
Yes.
And look, that's how close some of these transfers have been, like Josko Gvardiol and all these. Really could have been close. And honestly, I would read a book about that from start to finish within a couple of hours, because some of the stories behind why transfers fell through for Leeds would be a brilliant read. So there you go. We'll go out on it.
There was a player, just very quickly, I think, under Cellino, that watched us at Mansfield in a friendly in the summer of 2014. I can't remember his name for the life of me. He watched us at Mansfield, walked out the ground, was going to sign for us and change his mind.
That's easy. That would be really good. That would be, yeah. I'd love to.
Did you hear about Kiko Casilla doing that in pre-season this year? He went out to some club in Italy, I think it was, but he thought they were a different club, and it was like a fifth tier or semi-pro club. And when they did the stadium tour, he was like, "This isn't what I thought it was," but didn't tell anybody. And he left the ground, just went home, just got on a plane and left. Didn't tell anyone he wasn't coming back. Didn't tell anyone he wasn't signing. Was supposed to do the tour, sign his contract, and be unveiled as the player. He just left, just walked out.
I still like the Amiri story. Was it Amiri, the one that we nearly signed? Is that his surname?
Yeah.
Where he came in and asked for more after he'd flown him over and everything in the private jet, and they wanted a little bit more, and then everybody saw him walking around Leeds, in the centre of Leeds, thinking, oh, great, he's going to sign. And the reason he was walking around the centre of Leeds is because basically the board went, no. Oh, and by the way, find your own way home.
Yeah.
Just hilarious. That was brilliant, that.
He said they should have done that with Seth Johnson, because,
if they'd done that with Seth Johnson, I wouldn't have spent, 35 grand a week on him, whatever it was. But, yeah. And Peter is
I wonder what that is now in inflation.
Oh.
Like, what was... In today's money, what was the equivalent of us paying Seth Johnson 35 grand a week? Because it has to be nuts amount of money.
That's got to be 6 figures, isn't it? It's got to be 6 figures.
Got to be close to it. Yeah. It was crazy money then, wasn't it? Jesus.
Yeah. Nuts.
Well-run football club. Well-run.
Do you remember with Decor, when we signed Decor, when they made Decor with the shirt with 7.2 on it, and him holding the big check with, but then like with the 7.2 on the back of his shirt, doing this on the back of his shirt, and just like, why? What's the point of doing that? That makes no sense whatsoever at all. But whatever.
It's Ridsdale walking around going money, 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 throwing it everywhere.
Yeah, we lived the dream.
We did, didn't we? Yeah. And the nightmare.
Yeah.
And the nightmare.
Very much so.
Yeah. I know. I thought the Mary thing last year was the first look into what the new regime was going to be like. Yeah. Like, no, we're not going to just spend money for the sake of it. Find your own way home. It was great because everyone was arguing that time going, it's not him. Surely it's not him walking around Leeds City Centre. Like, no. Apparently you had to go to a travel agent to get a flight, to book a flight home.
That's fantastic. That is
such a shame.
I think the Gakpo story has changed a bit as well, Kev. I think his initial one he said around the time of Leeds was that Van Gaal had rang him and told him, like, you're jeopardising your international place for the it was a World Cup at the time. And they was like, oh no, if I scored 2 goals, I'd sign for Leeds. If I scored 1 goal, I'd sign for whoever. And didn't hat trick somebody else. I think you're changing your story there, pal. Yeah. Kind of glad we didn't get him. He hasn't been brilliant for. I don't think he's been brilliant for Liverpool.
Not really.
No, I agree.
Forgettable. But players that could be potentially coming in, and this is Kev to the players that may never join Leeds also. The list of players, we had a week of silence around transfers as the Red Bull stuff kicked in. And now the names have started to pop up again. There's an interesting trend with these as well. They all seem to be either attackers or wingers. So the one that popped up today, and if anyone knows anything about it, you can feel free to give me your thoughts on it. Silas, a winger from Stuttgart. He is known to be incredibly pacey, lightning quick. Leeds have been linked with him strongly, apparently, from Bild in Germany, saying Leeds are very interested in him. Any thoughts? Anyone know anything about Silas or any thoughts on him at all?
I don't know loads about him, but I just apparently, according to certain Team Talk, are saying that we've been given the green light to sign him, apparently, because now that his price has been made, but it doesn't say what the price actually is. But that's
8 to 10 million euro apparently, which is about 7.2 to 9.2 million.
Yeah,
pounds,
but all that Team Talk seem to be fascinated on is the fact that apparently we need to sell loads of players, which they obviously don't understand anything about the club. But that's by the by. But yeah, it just says that we've got the green light to sign him. His price has been put out there for, like you say, 10 million euros. So winger, there we go. He's not. How old is he? Is he 20?
25-year-old DR Congo international, 28 goals and 120 appearances for Stuttgart so far. Yeah, he got 7 goals and 6 assists last season, all competitions. Not bad.
He says he enjoyed a strong 2023-24 campaign in the Bundesliga side, despite scoring 7 goals and 6 assists across 30 appearances. 25. Oh, it says 25. Apparently, 15 million euros, 12.8 million pounds. 25-year-old international is sure to attract plenty of interest. So we'll just have to see. He's got interest from 5 clubs. So there's Leeds.
Yeah.
There's
Lons are in there as well, aren't they? Over there, I think, are another club that were mentioned.
Yeah. And it also says about Gakpo that the reason that he snubbed Leeds was because God told him to.
God told him to. Oh. Yeah. Well,
brilliant.
I mean, if he tells you to do something, you probably should.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
I think we're getting into silly season, aren't we? I know it's a well-known phrase with transfers and what have you, and you're going to get linked with a load of players. I think once the Euros have kind of got underway and we're sort of mid-June to the end of June, beginning of July, transfers start hotting up. Obviously, with the retain list coming out next week, all being well, we'll get a better idea of who's staying, who's going. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of bids for probably like some Nonto, Somerville, just to name but 2. So, yeah, it's so difficult to know how everybody's thinking. Certainly the board are thinking at the moment. It's very difficult to second guess. Nobody knew about Ethan Ampadu until the day he signed. So to me, I think the way the 49ers run the club is absolutely superb. And a lot goes on behind the scenes that nobody's privy to. Everyone can second guess things. But yeah, I love the way we do our business and we do it behind closed doors. There's no leaks, and that's the way it should be. And these signings are like surprise signings. And I think that may be what will happen this time round. And I know there's been linked with Arthur Gilchrist. I think one from loan from Chelsea. So, yeah, I think it'll quiet down, I think, for another week or so. And then once the Euros get underway and players start to come back from holiday and pre-season, it'll start to up again. So it's difficult to know because you get so many daft rumours this time of the season or this time of the summer.
As soon as Team Talk come into the conversation, that's when I take it off the list. That's, I mean,
this is silly season with rumours. From what I can see from the list of names, I think there's only one that I think is probably a target, and I reckon we're probably all going to agree on who it is as well. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get to that. But yeah, this Silas, I think they're just putting 2 and 2 together because they think Somerville's going to leave and we're just going to look for a winger to replace him, and then they'll just start throwing names out there. I don't think we're going to be able to sign a Bundesliga good side as well, Stuttgart starting winger for in the Championship. I don't see how that's going to work.
12 million would be a struggle as well if we don't offload a couple of players first, because realistically you can't sign anybody before the 30th of June because that's the PSR deadline. So anyone you sign before that has to get factored into the PSR stuff, which could push you over. So you're looking probably more likely sales or at least lining people up. But We'll just rattle them all off and we can have a conversation about it. You've got Silas, who's a winger from Stuttgart. You've got Debo Reed, who I don't think that's a runner at all. 31 years of age, also a winger. Tanaka from Dusseldorf is a number 8 centre midfielder. Leeds linked him last year as well. Jebbison, who's a young player, 20 years of age from Sheffield United, is an attacker, more than likely an under 21 striker because they won't have one next season.
Mm-hmm.
And Alfie Gilchrist was named as well. But mixed reports on a lot of these. Like, there's a Chelsea Blues site that said that he's nailed on to go to Leeds, but then again, it's an in the know site, and we know what they're like on Leeds. The week that we've had around in the know people as well on Twitter. So it's probably shouldn't put a huge amount of stock in that. But of that list of players, does anyone think any of them are actually realistic?
The only one I can see that has potential is the Alfie Gilchrist one, and the only reason why I'm saying that is because of the Somerville connection to Chelsea as well. So that could be, and again, this is pure speculation. Do not take what I'm saying as read. Everybody that's listening to this or watching this is speculation from me that could help kind of firm up the deal a little bit in terms of Somerville going, well, we'll give you Gilchrist if you just reduce the price a little bit on Somerville. That's the only one out of those lot that I can see making some sense.
Would you take Gilchrist as a loan then, or would you want them as a permanent move if you're going to be giving them Somerville at a cut price deal?
Loan to permanent is what I would do, is the sensible thing to do. Because if he plays in the squad and gets us up, then it helps to get us up, then it's worth its weight in gold, isn't it? So
Kev's not convinced.
No, I've watched him play. I think he scored in a game where they hammered somebody and he scored like late on. He's actually a centre half. Yeah, I think he's a centre half, and I don't think that's where we ideally should be looking, especially if we've got Joe Rodon waiting in the wings. He's played right back because they needed him to play right back, but I mean, I'm not overwhelmed by the signing, considering that there probably could be better loan players out there to get forward, especially in the right back position as well. So I'll be honest, I don't see that Conor Bradley getting much game time at Liverpool next year with a new manager coming in. Yeah,
bite your hand off for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's lots of players out there, and I don't see what. I don't want to disrespect the lad because obviously he's got potential and he's played for Chelsea. He's got into their first team, so he must have something about him. But it doesn't, like, every time I've watched him play, I'm thinking, I don't think, oh, this lad's going to be good. It's not like what you when you watch that Lewis Hall, the one that's gone to Newcastle. He had something about him. He's just slow and steady, and I don't think that's what we need in the way that we play football. So. I mean, maybe Paul's right about it. This could be something to sweeten the deal. I honestly can't see the point in signing Alfie Gilchrist, but that's me.
Guys,
of the list that are there, then Kev, who do you think? Do you think any of these are real? I struggle with most of them.
Yeah, Tanaka. We've linked with him twice, and obviously we actually did put a bid in for him. And if Farker likes a player, he'll go and get him again. He tried to sign Ampadu 5 years ago, and he goes and gets him when he plays for Leeds. He's obviously looked at Glenn Kamara at previous clubs too, and he does like buying from the German market too. So yeah, I think Tanaka's probably the one that's got the most legs out of all of that, and also he probably fits how we play, and we do need a goal scoring box to box 8. And that's why everything just seems to slot in when it comes to the Tanaka deal. They call him the Japanese Jude Bellingham, so he's obviously good, but he plays like that. So I'm quite excited about this one because that's where we need somebody in the engine room that's going to get on the end of things, that's going to arrive late in the box and put stuff in, because we haven't had that all year. And we finished third on 90 points. Imagine if we start adding goals from midfield. Yeah. Well, bloody hell.
I think if you look for what's the hook, like what's the connection to link them to Leeds, where's the reality here? I think if you look at Tanaka, you're looking at a slightly more dynamic midfielder who can go box to box and get you a couple of goals. Probably what Leeds are lacking last year. Yep. The bit that I want to tie to this, and I want to get your thoughts on this one as well, is it came out this evening, been listening to a couple of bits and pieces. The Ilya Gruev to Dortmund came out of nowhere. Sounded nuts. I thought there's no why. Why would they do that? You know, and he's been solid for Leeds. I'm a big fan of Gruev. I like what he does for Leeds. It's a simple job, but he does it really, really well. And effective goals unnoticed most of the time. But apparently there's more legs to this than we'd initially thought, that they really, really want him. And Leeds have said, yeah, well, 14 million, you can have him. But Leeds apparently have turned down several bids, according to Sky Germany, for Gruev already, which is the one player in this squad that I'm probably most shocked at. That will be the first one probably out the door if he does go. And I don't think he will think Leeds would be crazy, Sam. But if you get rid of Gruev and bring in Tanaka, knowing that you can put Ethan Ampadu into midfield next season to play that CDM role, but then you have no cover.
Not for me. I like Gruev. I think he's had a brilliant season. I think he took his time to settle. I remember watching the Stoke game back in October when they also said, "Can you do it on cold Tuesday night in October at Stoke?" And fortunately, that Leeds couldn't. But he grew into confidence, and he's had a year at Leeds now, and I think he'll be better next season. He grew with Kamara in that sort of CDM role, and I don't want to see him leave. I think he's had a really good first season at Elland. Obviously, he got the goal against Norwich to get the ball on in the playoff semi-final the other week. So I'd be disappointed if anything comes to that. And I think Leeds will stand firm. If a player wants to stay, I'm hoping that will be the case with Salih Gruev next season.
I agree. Don't want him to go. I think he's in terms of where we need to strengthen in terms of position. I think one of the things that we did come across a lot last season is the dynamism in midfield, and that was more with regards to the way that Kamara plays. So Gruev does that pivot role very, very well. What Kamara, and I think Kamara only probably did it 2 or 3 times last season, was where you saw him being box to box, but we need somebody that is like that consistently. So for Gruev to go, yeah, I wouldn't like to see Gruev go, but listen, what it brings us back to is where we actually are in terms of we're a championship side. If somebody bigger comes in for us and wants to pay the money that we potentially want, then we have to look at that because of where we are, unfortunately. But yes, I wouldn't like to see him go.
I think Dortmund probably have a scout just permanently in the West End at the moment, don't they? Because Somerville, actually great. Now Gruev, it'll be Ampadu soon because he probably fits their style of play. It's a strange one. And they're twin with Leeds, aren't they, as well? It's weird how these Leeds keep coming together. But I can see why they want him after watching him in the final, the way their midfield got ran through. And yeah, but 14 mil after buying it for 5. I mean, I wouldn't sell him. But I can see why some fans are saying invest that money straight back in the squad. Maybe we won't have to get rid of this player, get rid of that player, especially if Ampadu goes back into midfield. But you're right, there isn't anybody else in the team that can do the same job as Ampadu and Gruev, so we would definitely be light in there. So yeah. I don't know. It's a strange one. I'd like to keep him because he's a steady Eddie, does a lot of work as well. He's actually quite a good passer, one of the highest passing percent passes in the side. So yeah, don't sell him. Just sell who we need to and invest the money, and we all know who's going, so yeah, just leave it at that. Bring in new boys.
The other piece that came out today, and Kev, you brought my attention to this, I hadn't heard it. Daniel Levy is messing around. He's extended Joe Rodon's contract by a year to 2026, and you've thoughts on this, Kev, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it all over. I don't think it's come from any reputable sources as of yet, but I've Googled it. It's come up onto Leeds United News, Football London, Yorkshire Evening Post. It seems to be coming out on there as well now. Daniel Levy's is obviously there's an option in his contract that they can extend it an extra year. Looks like it's been done. Daniel Levy's done it because he's a very savvy man, Daniel Levy. He knows exactly what he's doing. I think what they're trying to do is, and I think maybe Leeds have been involved in this as well. I think maybe they're going to take him on loan again for another season with a view to us paying for him when we go up, or when we go up this year. I think that's what they're looking to do, and I think Rodon may have agreed to this as well. So, I mean, and then his brother's putting all this cryptic stuff all over over Twitter and that as well, like announcement come in and all that. He loves it.
You got him liking that picture that somebody did, haven't you? Just Sam Rodon sat here absolutely edging the entire fan base on Twitter the other night. It was just, I mean, do you know what? I really like Sam Rodon. I think he's very, very funny. Very, very funny.
He's a funny dude, yeah.
And he likes the nightlife in Leeds as well, from everything that I've seen so far.
He seems like Leeds full stop. He's very ingrained in the Leeds setup by all accounts. I love watching what Sam puts out on Twitter. But he just a nice picture. He said that was all he said about it. It was just a nice picture. It's like, okay, the timing's
he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, of course he does.
Yeah.
And Rodon hasn't said goodbye. Yeah, it's all linking in. I honestly think Joe Rodon's staying. I don't think he wants to go anywhere else. I think he's got his 2 mates. There's 4 of them at one point. Now Charlie Crew's in there. Yeah, I'm just feeling he's going to stay, and I think it'll be another loan deal now, and then we buy him at the end of the season because
that's all right, though, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Isn't it a new 3 years now for the financial fair play? Is a new 3-year period from?
I think it's next year's. So the end of this season is the end of the 3-year block.
Yeah, so I mean, they can probably splash a bit of cash after the 1st of June, and then if it doesn't work out, look at the end of the 3 years, sell whatever you've got left, and then just hope for the best. I think that's what going to be looking at. Really, he's looking at the end of next season to start ploughing some money in to the edge of FFP. That's where it's all going to go. Fingers crossed, anyway.
It's a good deal, Paul, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Getting him, bringing him, it's a no-brainer. My thing that I said after the final, that game we shall never speak about it again. My thing is that whatever the price is, we pay it. We just pay it now. Pay it for him. He's happy at Leeds. It's clear that he's happy at Leeds. He gets on well with everybody. You know, he's got 3-4 of his mates there playing. He enjoys the life. He's played some of the best football. He's so consistent. He's so just reliable, does it, knows how to bring the ball forward, knows how to do all the certain bits and pieces. Just pay the money for him.
Yeah. Stats from a continuity perspective as well. It's an important one. He had such a big presence for Leeds last year. And he was building a nice partnership with Pascal Stroke as well before he got injured. And you could maybe envisage that being your centre-half partnership next season. So, again, seems like a really good deal if you can get him on loan and not to spend any money on him.
Yeah, as the guys have said, it's a no-brainer for me. I'd love to see him back. They had a great season last season. Had some brilliant partnership season with Ethan Ampadu at the back end of the season. But if they can do the deal and it's a loan deal, I'm more happy with that. I know they say don't fall in love with loan players. Look at the Ben White situation back in 2019, 2020 when he played every minute of every league game under Marcelo Bielsa. But if the opportunity arises for Joe Rodon, yeah, I'd be delighted to have him back at Ellen Road for another season. The only thing that's missing from his game is goals. Obviously, we didn't score many goals centre-backs last season, sort of from set pieces or from corners. And I think that's something to sort of work on over the summer into next season. But going back to the original point, yeah, I'd be absolutely delighted. And I personally think it will happen. I think he'll be a Leeds United player again next season.
I fell in love with Jed Spence. That didn't work out well either, did it? So, yeah.
No comment.
Yeah.
If he'd worn the mask he was wearing in the charity game all season, that, you know, at least there'd been something entertaining to watch for a little bit. The one player that I was so excited about Leeds signing was Jed Spence, and so disappointed.
I thought he was the missing piece for me. Honestly, I thought, yeah, that's it now. We're here now. We're here, and he played well for that 20 minutes he played, didn't he?
Oh, that was it. That was in. 20 minutes, I was 2 feet. Yeah, absolutely. I want more of this, and then you saw more of that. You went,
yeah.
But I will, and I've deeply fallen in love with Joe Rodon, you know, and very quickly, and I'm very aware of the don't fall in love stuff. But at the same time, he's exactly my kind of player. You know, no nonsense, gets stuck in, love it.
Makes sense though, doesn't it? This Joe Rodon, because we can't buy him now. He wants to stay. They extend it, and they get the money at the end of next year instead of this year, and we pay his wages this year as well in his last year of his contract. Extend it, and it all makes perfect sense. This is why I'm not going to look into it too much about them trying to flog him elsewhere or do this and do that. I think it all makes perfect sense, and especially with the 3-year period ending on the 1st of June, the 1st of July, and then it all just makes financial sense. Yep, and they've probably given first option on that Archie or something like that for 80 million or something. So yeah.
The rumour mill was going around, wasn't it, that Tottenham have thrown in interest into Archie now as well, haven't they? So
who hasn't? I mean, if you're a top club,
you're not. You're going to, aren't you?
Yeah. Everyone, every single player. They all want the next Jude Bellingham, don't they? And he's here, so that's what they're looking for.
Well, that's from Finley Gorman for 5 million. They're all buying these kids really, really young. It seems like for a lot of money for their age, but comparative of what if they hit this potential that they look like they've got, how much would you pay for them at 21 years of age? Like, look at Bellingham, he's probably worth into the hundreds of millions now already, and he's still a kid. So has to be.
He's nuts. He's absolutely nuts. I know a few people whose kids play for the youth setup, and they all said that Finley Gorman is special, like really
generational talent. They called him, didn't they? He was that good. Yeah,
really, really special. So just have to wait and see.
And Harry Gray was right beside him, banging goals in. So fingers crossed, because I think Harry got a couple of goals for the under 18s as well recently as well. Went up to the under 18, scored twice or 3 times, and then went back down again. So yeah, look, there's still a lot of young, exciting, talented young players coming through that setup, but they're all trying to grab these kids before they hit the peak or hit their next threshold before somebody else comes in and mix them on the cheap. So it's a tricky one. Archie's going to be right up there. I mean, Dortmund is if you're a young player, I'm not saying he's going to leave, to
Yeah.
Paul's points earlier on. I'm not saying he's leaving. He's probably not, and it's okay. But if you were going to go anywhere as a young player, I mean, Dortmund seems like the logical place. You'll play loads of football, you'll get better, you'll get European experience, you get exposure to the world, and give it 2 years in Real Madrid or Manchester City, you'll buy you and you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 22. So
it's the European proving ground, isn't it, for all these young talents and that are going out there? There's loads of them out there. I mean, there's Sancho and that boy, no Gittins. He looks some player as well. That young English one. People not even talking about him because he's not playing in the country. There's a lad playing for Juventus called Samuel Lilling. He's top notch as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few of them out there we don't even realise. And the English game's going from strength to strength. And the English national team anyway. I wouldn't say the Premier League's going strength to strength. But
it's getting harder to get into the squads in these teams.
Yeah.
So you're leaving earlier and you're going abroad to try and get in the window, and it's working. It's working really, really well. Good education for them. So so Joe Rodon, fingers crossed that gets done. Maybe that's what Sam Rodon was getting at. Maybe he knew there was another announcement coming soon because it's only a couple of days after he put that out that this is coming out as well. So maybe just there's something on behind the scenes.
Just do what man said. Just sue the league.
What do you make of that, Paul? Because that's a bizarre. That's the end of football, isn't it?
It's an absolute joke. If they win that, that's an absolute joke. They've basically turned around and gone, we don't like what you're doing. We don't like that we can't just do what we want to do. So we're going to sue you instead. It's a bit like listening to, not to be too political, but like obviously Trump being seen as guilty, but then people turn around and go, well, it's unfair. They're all corrupt. And it's like, well, no, he's been found guilty by a jury of his peers.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with it or not, it's by a jury of his peers. So similar sort of thing. So just no, I'm not going to accept it. We're just going to sue you. It's easier. That's what we'll do. But yeah, it is. If that comes off, the far-reaching sanctions of that, it just makes it ridiculous. Well, I think if we're all honest, we're getting closer and closer to the European Super League, aren't we? I think this is the step.
I think this is the step, because if they win this case, then what it says is governing bodies have no rules over what are essentially now corporations or states. Yep. I think it was Karen Cunningham or someone put out thing today saying this is the time to ban state ownership of football clubs. Now, I thought FIFA had a ruling in a long time ago that stopped states from interfering in football. That seems to not exist anymore because they're just buying up clubs. But if they win that case, it essentially says all of the rules that you've got for your football league, your domestic footballing league, do not matter because we're a corporation and you're violating competitive rules or competition rules. So therefore, these need to be thrown in the bin. That goes, all of the things that lock clubs into the divisions are gone overnight, are gone. And then that just ripple effects across every league in Europe. And then you've essentially got breakaways can happen whenever they want. And I think the UEFA, I'd say the Court of Arbitration for Sport, or one of the courts in Europe, basically said that the Premier League were wrong and other countries were wrong to ban their clubs from setting up another league. They shouldn't have done that. But these are not sporting bodies that are making these decisions. These are courts that deal with companies and company law, and now all of a sudden it's been applied to sports. And if this happens, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say it's the end of competitive football. It becomes a completely different thing after that. Am I wrong?
No,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think we could end up turning out at the Ellen Road, sponsored by Red Bull International Intergalactic Arena at some point if this goes up, because you can put in money and just put, okay, we're sponsoring a stadium for £2 billion. There you go, it's done. Just that's the end then. That is the end of football. I mean, football's for the fans, isn't it? And it's not, and it's just changed so much over the years. I don't recognise it anymore. Obviously, I still love it, but if anything that goes on behind the terraces and on the pitch, I tend to bury my head in the sand.
That's why we've all secretly enjoyed, as much as we're all disappointed about not getting promoted, we've all enjoyed it in the Championship this season because it's like real football again. I mean, I'll be honest, the only thing I'm not looking forward to is having to spend the entire season having to explain what reciprocal pricing means. Which is really just gonna I'm gonna spew. But that's
amortization as well. Add that to your list of boards. Oh God! The amortization of transfer funds. Like why? Someone put a comment on my video yesterday, and they said, "I've been watching football since the 50s or 60s, and we used to just talk about football, and now all we do is talk about tax, money, financial deadlines." He said it's just not the same thing anymore.
No.
Stats, where are you on this? Because you obviously got a massive in-depth knowledge of football and history of football. Like, where does your head sit with this kind of thing?
I think what Man City are doing is they're basically throwing the toys out the pram. They know they've got these 115 charges hanging over them, and they've basically turned around to the Premier League and said, right, we're going to fight this, we're going to sue you, we don't like the rules. And if they do win it, it's sending out the complete wrong message to football. Like, football is now a business. When I was growing up, many moons ago, it was about what happens on a Saturday afternoon or a Wednesday or a Tuesday night. You'd wake up, you watch Grandstand, you'd watch Match of the Day, and that was it. Now it's every single day. It's a business. It's how many shirts selling, you need a commercial sponsorship, etc., etc. And it's more about the money side of it, if you can compete or not, but rather than what actually goes on the pitch on a Saturday afternoon or on another day. And I love football in the 90s, early 90s, mid-noughties, when it was all about the results. Nowadays, you're seeing clubs going bankrupt because they can't afford this, and the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And I think there was an article, one of, I think it might have been Stockbridge Park Steels, that are on the verge of going bust next season if they don't raise a certain amount of money. And for the amount of money they need to raise, Man City could basically pay somebody's wages for a week. And that's the difference in football nowadays. And it sickens me, because to me as a fan, not just of Leeds United, but of a football fan, it shouldn't just be about all the money. It should be about what goes on the pitch. But unfortunately, nowadays, it's... Look at the TV deal, for example, for Sky Sports. It's astronomical. And the money coming in is ridiculous. And I'll take the best example, the FA Cup final against City versus Man United like a couple of weeks ago. When I was growing up, the whole day of the FA Cup final used to start 9 o'clock in the morning. Now you get an hour's coverage at the start, and that's it. And that's because no one's bothered with the FA Cup anymore, and it's all about getting to the Champions League and the money that the Champions League brings. And that saddens me a little bit, because as a fan, I would love to get to Wembley in an FA Cup final, and unfortunately, it's kind of taken away from you.
I think the Champions League place should go to FA Cup winner. I do. I think that fourth place should go to the FA Cup winner. That would make it so much more interesting, wouldn't it? It'd be amazing.
Like, I'm not even English. I'm Irish. I grew up playing football on the streets in Ireland, and even as an Irish person, there's historical issues between the Irish and the English, especially in the 80s and 90s when I grew up in Ireland. But the dream was still to walk out at Wembley. It wasn't to walk out at Lansdowne Road in Dublin. It was to walk out at Wembley in an FA Cup final and represent my club that I loved, which is Leeds. And that was always the kid's dream, was to walk out at Wembley. I have a friend who was that tattoo that a lot of footballers have of themselves, silhouette of themselves, their dad in Wembley in front of them. And he has that in front of him. Like, that's his silhouette of him and his dad in Wembley. And he's Irish as well. But Wembley has just this mystique. And you know, I asked you stats last week when you went there, that a couple weeks ago, soak it up, send me pictures, just do what you need to, you know, because it's just something else. It's you're walking in history.
Oh, absolutely.
And the Champions League final doesn't have that for me. The European Cup used to, but the Champions League final now is a commercial thing. I mean, I was trying to explain this to Jess as well about it. Like, the World Cup and the Euros will be the same. As soon as there's a winner announced, Adidas or Nike are announcing that they've won the European Championships, or they've won the Champions League. Adidas had a massive sponsorship banner out with Real Madrid going, "Sorry, Europe," and an Adidas logo. In other words, we won the Champions League. It's like, well, you're a shirt manufacturer. You didn't win shit. You know, you just put your name on a shirt and that's it. You're not even a sponsor. You're just the guy who makes the kit. So relax, dial it back a bit. You know, you didn't win anything. But that's what it is now. It's all the commercial aspects to it. And it ekes its way in. And I suppose that's the worry with the Red Bull stuff, is that it ekes its way in slowly before you realise it's got both your hands on it. I'm just very surprised at the Manchester City fans' reaction to this. And I wonder, if we'd won loads of league titles in the Premier League and this was happening around us, would we be... Because I know if it happened in the morning with Leeds fans, they'd be up in arms about it and there'd be, you know, marches on Elland Road and everything else, because you just wouldn't stand for this. But if you've won a couple of league titles and you have a Champions League in your back pocket, there's all of a sudden your morals go completely out the window, because I've seen Manchester City fans defending this, and this has nothing to do with club rivalries or anything else. As a football fan, how can you support this? It's going to destroy the league you play in. And people are going to get bored of watching Man City versus Real Madrid every week or every second week. And the Champions League will lose its mystique or its interest, because it's a league format now with these Super League clubs that nobody else can get into. And it'll get boring. And the only reason that this is even being floated is because Barcelona are up their eyeballs in debt. They can't even register their manager for next season, because honestly, they're waiting on 200 million in sponsorship to come in. They've sold their soul. They never said they put a sponsor on their shirt, and they did. They never said they'd sponsor their ground, they did. They're doing weddings on the pitch before they knocked it down. And it's all of a sudden, what made your club special, what makes your club unique, is gone from football, and it's been replaced. I'm shocked that the Manchester City fans are defending this. What I've seen anyway, it might not be the bulk of them, but what I've seen, and I don't know if that surprised anybody else, but I would have thought they would have against
this. Not for me.
It's let's talk. You look at the FA Cup side of things; they've kicked and stamped the feet enough, so consequently, the third round replays aren't going to happen again. So they don't want the third round replays anymore. That money can mean the difference for smaller clubs surviving for that season as compared to not surviving if they're getting into the FA Cup. That's one of the still the big appeals of the FA Cup is you get a small club that manages to bring, and I mean small in terms of its position in the league, gets to bring the massive club back to their ground, or they get to have a replay at some big Premier League ground. That's the type of stuff that annoys me more than anything is that side of stuff. So yeah, it's not what it used to be anymore.
Paul, that argument as well. Go ahead, Sats. Go ahead.
What was going to be then see Newcastle and Tottenham go halfway around the world for an end of season friendly for what? And it's like these players can't play in an FA Cup third round replay, but can gallivant at the end of the season. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yep. And sadly, that's what's happening.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's exactly the point that I was going to make. Spurs are one of the clubs saying there's too many games in the calendar, and 48 hours after the season finished, they're playing a friendly in Australia, and you're going, well, don't play the friendly in Australia maybe, and play the competitive game in England, you know?
Yeah.
I really think the FA and the Premier League as an organisation as well need to just stop giving the top six what they want, because they're slowly destroying football. And it's not the badge on the shirt that I'm referring to when I say the top six. It's the owners of these clubs that are slowly eroding what football is. And I think the next time the top six say, oh, we think this should happen, the FA should go, you're not getting anything else, because every time we give you something else gets worse. So you're not getting that. Play football the way it was set out. Get on with it. Tough. Move on. That's if the rules even matter anymore after this Man City case, if they'll ever matter. But I don't know. Anyway, depressing note to finish on. Right, it's as good a note as I to finish up on the death of football. Folks, thanks very much for joining us. You can catch Andrew Dalton on Twitter every day, or X is now officially called X.com. You can check him out on that every day with his latest updates. You can get Kev at Leeds House or Not Another Leeds podcast on a Friday evening. Cracking podcast, definitely worth checking out. And you can head over to the Leeds Therapy to check out Paul and his daily content as well. Paul, as I said, heading towards 1,000 subscribers. So you can head over there, help him get to that landmark. Would be fantastic. Great channel, does great work over there as well. So, and I'll be back on Monday morning for your regular Leeds news. Fingers crossed we move slightly out of rumour mill into actually some tangible deals at some point. It's going to be a long summer. Folks, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend, and I